coming to break through comfort eating to the body and life you desire. I have the honor and the privilege, and I'm very excited to introduce you to our awesome presenter today. Charmaine is the founder and owner of Ironside Fitness Studios in Calgary, and she also runs a thriving online coaching business where she helps women overcome challenges with weight, food, and mindset on the road to living their best lives in their best bodies, and I just love that. Charmaine's passionate about the topic of comfort eating because she painfully struggled for 19 years with her weight, body image, and chronic roller coaster dieting. She's yo-yoed with her weight between 125 to 197 many times in her life. And after 19 years of dieting, Charmaine finally realized that losing the weight for life was an inside job, and that dieting would never be the answer. And this inspired her to come up with a lasting solution. The solution she found, and is excited to share with you today, involves techniques to transform from the inside out, including breaking through comfort eating. Potato chips is my crutch. With her university education and as a kinesiologist and almost a decade working in the fitness and nutrition industry, Charmaine knows that real, lasting body transformation needs to go deeper than just eat less and exercise more. Charmaine's approach has helped hundreds of women release anywhere from 10 to 60 pounds and keep it off while having freedom and peace with food. Without further ado, let's welcome Charmaine up to the front.
All right. So before we jump in, I'd love for everyone to stand up for a couple of seconds. I'm a movement person, so just get a little more energy going. So you just put your hands back here, open up your chest, open up your heart, and you're just going to inhale as you go to the left, exhale to the right. Inhale, exhale. I guess if I'm mirroring, it'll be inhale, exhale. Just really getting grounded in your body, feeling your chest open, your heart open, knowing that the most deep transformations happen when you're in your body and in your heart rather than in your head. So just inhaling, getting that breath going. That's your life force energy. And then let's just touch our knees or our toes, and then reach for the sky, tippy toes. You can reach down, inhale down, exhale, reach as high as you can. A couple more like that, as far as you like to squat. And then let's just reach over, getting that nice side body open. Whatever feels good for your body. We're all built differently, honoring that. And then just giving yourself a little pat or a little massage, getting yourself awake and ready for this talk. Awesome. So you can have a seat. All right. Am I the only one who's hot because I'm pregnant and I've got my extra heating system, or is anyone else a little hot? Yeah. You guys okay? I think we're just going to have to sweat it out. Sweat lodge. Oh, is it?
They've been playing with it all day.
I don't want anyone to be too cold. I used to be the person that was always cold, so I loved when it was hot. So welcome to this talk, and in the next 45 minutes, I'm really excited to share what is comfort eating, whether or not for you it's something worth addressing, and also some of my most powerful tools for shifting the habit so that you have more peace around food, more control around food, more confidence around food, and you can break through. Maybe for some people it's a weight thing, and for some people it's just wanting to not feel like food has so much control over their lives. Does everyone feel like they're in the right place? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I've got a handout here for you, and I'm a big, if you just ran in, did you grab a handout? They're just at the back corner. Perfect. So I'm a big fan of active learning, so this will be kind of a do-with process. So I'd love for interaction, so if you feel comfortable putting your hand up, and maybe there'll be a little bit of opportunity for sharing. And I really find the more we share, the more we integrate, and the more we get to see that we're not alone on this journey. So the tools I'm going to share, I wanted to share one testimonial, and it's from a woman named Shannon, and she's a teacher. And she dieted on and off for a lot of her life, and so she's like, I'm going to give your peaceful eating practices a try over Christmas. And so she learned them just in November last year, and then she put them into practice at Christmas, and she said, I'm just going to try it. And what she did was she would go to her family meals and her parties with school, and she would let herself eat whatever she wanted, and she was very present while she did it. So she would sit there and she would savor it. Those are some of the principles that we'll work on today. And she came back. She actually also comes to my fitness studio, and she stepped on the scale, and she was down 6 pounds in 2 weeks. And she was just totally blown away because last Christmas before that, she tried to restrict herself, and then she'd do these binges, and then drinking all this wine. And so she just said, I'm going to drink wine, but I'm going to do it in a way that honors my body. For her, that was 2 glasses, not more, because then she would make really poor food choices. Anybody make different food choices after a few drinks? Yeah. So anyways, I just want to really encourage you that all of this is just tools, and put them in your toolbox if they resonate, and throw them out if they don't. So a little bit more about me. Thank you for that awesome intro. And you did mention I have yo-yoed with my weight between 125 and 197. And the interesting thing, which I'm not going to talk about too much today, but when I was at my lowest weight, I was doing fitness competitions, and I was my most unhappy. And so I know a lot of us think, well, when we get that goal weight, everything's going to fall into place, and we're just going to be happy. And I found out the hard way that there was such a deeper thing going on for me that I needed to address. And so always thinking that the grass is greener on the other side is sort of not always true. And so just knowing that finding a weight that you're comfortable at, that you can maintain, where you can go out with friends and have wine and have some fun food and not feel all this stress, I think that's success. I don't think success is, oh my God, my friend lost 30 pounds last month and she eats nothing and she won't come out for dinner with us anymore and she's obsessed and she's weighing everything she eats. That's, to me, not freedom, and that's not success. Does anyone resonate with that? Cool. So with the handout, feel free to write some notes. My big thing is, what can you take action on? So, there's a quote that says, knowledge is power. And I really don't believe in that quote. I believe knowledge implemented with inspiration is power. So what can you learn this weekend and actually put into action on Monday? Or even better, at your next meal or at your next moment. Does that make sense? So just taking notes on anything that resonates. All right, so we're going to talk about comfort eating. So the definition for me is eating food when you're not really in need of fuel, you're not really physically hungry, but you're not wanting to feel what you're feeling. So maybe you're feeling exhausted, maybe you're feeling stressed, maybe you're feeling sad, frustrated, and using food to either try to deal with that feeling or using food to numb it down. Has anybody ever done that?
No.
Okay, no. You can leave that. I'm just kidding. So, hands up. Do you feel like comfort eating is something worth addressing from what you've heard already? Yeah?
Yeah.
A few people? If you're like, I don't know why I'm in this room, don't worry. Yeah, do you have a question?
I will share something with the group.
Awesome.
If you don't have a comfort eating story, then you can maybe live through mine. I sometimes get so just worked up and stressed, and it's like, it could be 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, shit, I need a drink. I'm like, I can't drink this hour in the day, so I need some chocolate, or there's no chocolate in my house, and I'll pace, and I just, again, don't want to deal with how I'm feeling, and I want it to stop, and I just want a nice moment. I might happen a couple times a year. We'll go to the cupboard and get a cake mix, like a Betty Crocker thing. Mix up a cake mix like somebody would bake a cake or bake cupcakes, and eat it from the bowl until I kind of get sick or I'm full or I'm just so happy, and then I'll go make 12 cupcakes. But I've literally eaten enough batter again for 12 cupcakes. That's my hair.
Oh, let's do So that's awesome. I mean, what was your name? Susan. So thanks for sharing that. And I really think that takes a lot of courage. So awesome. And also, the more we can share those stories, it's like we're not alone. And I know I used to feel so ashamed of the habit that I had. And I would stand at the fridge sneaking some food and hoping my husband wasn't going to walk down and catch me eating the cake batter or whatever it was. So thank you for sharing that. Awesome. So I wanted to just share a couple of the benefits of overcoming this habit. And I'm not just going to leave you hanging, I'm going to give you some great tools. So the first benefit that makes me really excited is weight release that is sustainable. So has anybody ever lost weight and gained it back? Yeah? So when I say weight release, there's a reason I say release, not loss. So the word loss to our subconscious mind actually says, I'm going to find that weight again. And so it's very powerful. Our words, I'm a neuro-linguistic programming junkie, and I love talking about the power of our words. And so if we say we're going to lose weight, almost always your brain and your body's going to find a way to find the weight. So if that's one thing you take away from today, we're on a weight release journey, and we're not wanting to find what we lost, right? But we're releasing it. And another reason why it's sustainable is because it's looking at something deeper than just, here's a meal plan, here's a diet. I know for me, I spent 7 years of my life on the Canadian national team for half-pipe snowboarding, and I remember stepping on the scale at fitness testing and being in the 180s, and they would just be like, you need to talk to the nutritionist, the dietitian, and we had access to all these great resources, and I would talk to them, and they'd give me a 1,500 calorie a day meal plan, and I was like, okay, try to follow it for a week maybe, and then I would have a really awful competition, or I'd feel sad or lonely, and I would end up with my Ben & Jerry's or whatever ice cream on the couch at night. And so I really realized, took me hindsight now, but it wasn't about a meal plan. It wasn't about a better diet. It wasn't about more information. It was about dealing with why I was eating food as my drug. Some people it's shopping, some people it's wine, some people it's cocaine. Not to make a joke about it, it's really, we all have something that we use, I think. Does everyone feel like maybe you have something? Okay. So the second benefit is that you'll have more peace and confidence and freedom around food, more enjoyment around food. I spent so many years on diets, and like I've shared a few examples, going out to a restaurant and always ordering the salad, dressing on the side, and feeling so deprived all the time, and just constant feeling of deprivation. And food is actually proven to be one of the biggest sources of joy for humans. Bless you. And so if we don't let ourselves get joy from it, we're missing out on such an amazing part of life. Does anybody take joy from their food? Some people? You do? Cool. Yeah, and I mean, lots of people don't. Lots of people have so much drama around it and stress around it, and that it's this beautiful thing that could be so enjoyable ends up being so stressful. So the third benefit, which is probably my favorite, is once you break through the habit of comfort eating, you'll have more energy, you'll have more zest for life. And would it be all right if I shared a quick story? So 6 years ago, I was in Calgary, in Kensington, in the Agape Hospice. And I was sitting beside my mom, beside her hospital bed, and she was dying from leukemia. And it had been a pretty fast journey for her, a pretty exhausting journey. And I remember my brother, it was my mom's 63rd birthday that day, and he brought her a cheesecake, and he brought a cheesecake to sort of celebrate her birthday and sing happy birthday. And nobody ate the cheesecake. And I remember everyone left for the night. Her friends had popped in, and my siblings and her partner. And I remember sitting beside her bed and literally, bite by bite, eating the entire cheesecake. Not one tear fell, not one emotion. The chaplain popped their head in and said, "How are you doing? This is a tough time. Do you want to talk about it?" And I have goosebumps because I remember thinking, what? Why would I want to talk to somebody about this? I just want to eat, I want you to leave me alone, and I don't want to express my emotions. Does anyone resonate at all? So, I could go into a big backstory about how it was never safe to cry growing up, and it wasn't safe to express myself. However, that's a whole other can of worms. However, my coping mechanism was food. And so I was about 30 pounds heavier than I am now, and I was not pregnant. And I say I was wearing the pain of my emotions on my body, because literally I would leave the hospice, I would stop for a Slurpee with Coke, and I would spike it with rum when I got home, so alcohol was also my drug of choice. I would eat, I would order big Indian meals and eat way too much so that I couldn't even feel my feelings or feel anything, and just go to bed like that, and I was really just numb. So the third benefit of breaking through comfort eating is you get more energy and you get more zest for life. So the energy comes from actually expressing yourself and getting what you need. So what did I need when my mom was dying? I needed to cry, I needed a hug, I needed to talk to people, I needed to journal, I needed to be angry at the world. But what did I do? Instead, I just ate. And so once I realized that this just wasn't working, I started doing some grief recovery work, and I took a bunch of emotional eating courses, and I started studying it, and was slowly able to release a lot of that pain and emotion, and my zest for life came back. You probably wouldn't even recognize me from like 6 or 7 years ago till today, because I was depressed, I was overweight, I was a fitness trainer who never worked out, and I would go to like KFC or whatever the fast food was on my way home from the gym. After training 12 clients in a row, I was very motivational, but I was motivational with my energy and my words. I just kind of faked it till I made it, but I wasn't really walking the talk. Is that what they say? Walking the talk? Walking the walk? Anyways, talking the walk? Whatever. So those are the 3 benefits. So, dieting, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about dieting, because if that's your thing, that's your thing. I know for some people, having some guidelines around food works well for them. I just want to let you know, like, studies do show that only 5% of people that go on a diet maintain the weight loss for over a year. And I would say that's pretty crappy statistics. Does anyone agree? However, it's just what we've been sold. It's the thing we've been told. You just got to change what you eat. Like Ramona said, eat less, exercise more. That's kind of like what we're shown, right? However, there's so much more going on. There's stress, there's exhaustion, there's sleep deprivation, there's emotions, there's old habits from childhood, like you got to clear your plate. There's all these things, and so a diet isn't going to overcome all that, right? So I like to just say 95% of dieters don't fail their diets. 95% of dieters are failed by their diets. So I know I've coached a lot of clients who just think, oh my gosh, I just don't have willpower. I just can't stick to this. I'm lazy. I can't. They blame themselves is what I'm trying to say. And I really want you to know that if you've never had success on a diet, it's because dieting is probably not the solution for you, and it's a bit of a flawed logic for most of us. So just think about maybe if weight release has been an intention of yours, think about your attempts that you've tried, and just take a moment to reflect on that. And if it was a restrictive diet or meal plan, what was the result of it? And if anyone's willing to just quickly share, does anyone kind of realize, I've tried a lot of things, and usually they end up under the bed or, filed away, or I try it for 2 weeks and then something stressful happens and I give up on it. Does anyone have a story like that they want to share? Yeah?
It's not so much a story, but I know in my own mind, like if I, kind of feel like a craving or whatever, and I'll go and I'll say, oh, I can't have that. The minute you tell yourself you can't have something, it's like you want it even more.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like thinking.
Yeah, that's psychology. There's a quote that says, for every diet, there's an equal and opposite binge. So when we deprive ourselves of something, when we deprive for long enough, eventually we're going to swing the other way, right? Mm-hmm. And so my passion is helping people find that middle line where it's like there's room for wine, there's room for chocolate, there's room for cake, or whatever your favorite things are, and there's moderation, and there's dignity, and there's self-respect, and there's wanting to feel great tomorrow, and there's honoring your temple of your body. And so it doesn't have to be black or white, though. Thanks for sharing that. And you're going to share back there?
I was just thinking that any kind of program, any kind of diet that you go to for meetings or whatever, I'm thinking of Weight Watchers, obviously. But, I got weary of measuring every day. Planning, that's the thing that gets me. I want easy and simple on one, but a structured plan falls flat for me. It's too much work.
Yeah. Can anyone else relate to that? I know I can for sure. I believe food should be fun and freedom, and yes, some discipline and some foresight. If you're going to be out all afternoon, maybe there's some almonds in your purse so you don't end up at McDonald's, but, it doesn't have to be so rigid. So, thanks for sharing that. All right, so, some of you might be thinking, okay, but, we always hear weight loss is mostly what you put in your mouth. Has anyone ever heard that? 80%, I've heard that stat a million times, 80% of weight loss is what we put in our mouth, related to food, right? And so the thing is, what we put on our mouth, I've said this a few times, but it's not just about knowing what to eat, right? So how many of us know how to eat healthy but often make other choices? Yeah, and that's where the rubber hits the road, and it's not about following a plan harder and having more discipline and being harder on yourself. It's about figuring out what's the trigger for eating that could be worked through so that food is just food again. Food is sustenance, food is joyful, and it's not being used for jobs that was never meant to be used for. So the solution, I believe, is really learning how to break through these habits of comfort eating. And so I wanted to share the 5 steps that I've really found, deep in my heart from all of this 6-year journey of really overcoming comfort eating, which, by the way, I'd never say I'm fully recovered. Like, sometimes if I have a really bad day, I'll still have like a little bit of an episode. However, it's so much less often, and it's so much less severe than it used to be. So, it's not a whole cheesecake. It might be mindlessly eating a piece of cheesecake, but it's not a whole cheesecake. And it happens maybe every 3 or 4 months instead of every day, basically. So the first step to breaking through comfort eating. Would anyone like to read the first step on your handout? It's just down here.
Become aware of the nature of your hungers.
Yeah, perfect. So becoming aware of the nature of your hunger. So what this means is knowing the difference between a physical hunger and my spirit is hungry, my emotions need to be quelled. I like to call it like a spiritual hunger. And so even just right now, put your feet on the floor, take a couple deep breaths, maybe even put your hand on your belly, and just ask yourself, are you physically hungry? And it's before lunch, so hopefully you got a little hunger edge. And just questioning yourself, getting aware. I know for me, for many years, I didn't know what hunger felt like because I never let myself get hungry because I was afraid of it because I dieted for so long. And so I kind of lost my hunger cues, so I had to practice getting them back. But yeah, just being aware. So physical hunger, what are some cues of physical hunger? How do you know you're hungry?
Tummy growls.
Tummy growls. Anyone else?
Headache.
Headache, yeah.
Irritability.
Yes, irritability. Hangry, I call it. Yeah.
Lightheaded.
Lightheaded, yeah, totally. Anyone else?
I start yawning.
Yawning. Yeah, tired. Sometimes for me it's like a lack of clarity. Cool. So there's that physical hunger where it's like my body, it's like a tank of gas, like I need gas. I need something to keep me functioning at this high optimum level. And then there's the other hunger, which is more of a spiritual hunger. I'm bored, I'm tired, I'm stressed, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm lonely, I'm whatever you're fill in the blank. So that's the first step, is becoming aware. The second step, anyone want to read the second? Step 2.
Using coping practices in the moment.
Yeah. So in the moment, when you're at the fridge, or you're at the pantry door and you're just ravenously, or you're wanting to just eat a whole bowl of raw cookie dough or whatever it is, having some practices in the moment so that you can have a bit of space between maybe the habit of and actually having some space to make a different choice. It's all about awareness. And then having some practices in the moment just to make that shift, which I'm going to share with you. So I'm going to share a little bit more deeper in step 1 and 2, and we're going to work through a little bit of it. And I just want to give you like an airplane view of the last 3 steps. I know this is a short talk, so I thought I would give you more tools and get deeper into a couple things instead of going too wide. So the third step, I'll just quickly run through those. Anyone want to read it?
Design your life to support your success, prioritize relaxation and sleep.
Yeah. So designing your life to support your success. What do I mean by that? I talk a lot about success habits with my clients. However, the biggest thing is stress. So stress physiologically in your body has some pretty intense effects, especially when it comes to food. And so what happens when we're stressed? We're in fight or flight mode. And so we're like, in the old days, we're like fighting off the saber-tooth, whatever. Tiger?
Yeah.
I was going to say dragon. So we have all this cortisol coursing through our veins. And what happens is our brain goes, oh my gosh, she's in fight mode. We got to give her quick energy to keep fighting, to keep going with this stress, which who's a little stressed more often than like once a week? Yeah? So what happens is our brain actually says, get energy and get it now. And what's the quickest form of food energy?
Sugar.
Sugar, yeah. Like, what are some examples?
Pop.
Candy,
Chocolate.
chocolate, carbs. Basically just like anything quick to digest. So when we're stressed, we're not usually like, they're really craving some like broccoli and roasted chicken. You know, like we're like, give me the cheesecake or give me the whatever. So that's one thing. And another quick thing about stress is when you're stressed and you have all that stress hormone, which is called cortisol, your body gets really good at holding fat. So there's been studies on this, but you could be eating like a hamburger in rush hour on Deerfoot trying to get to a meeting on time that you paid $300 for and you don't want to be late for the appointment. And you could be eating the same hamburger at home with a friend, have lots of time, and you can hold 3 times as much fat from the same hamburger eating in that stress state versus the total relaxation state. So stress is huge. And you know, I own 2 fitness studios. I have clients come in and they want to start doing fitness, and after kind of doing a consult with them, I'm like, you don't need fitness. You need to like sleep more and get some stress reduction, and then we'll add fitness. Because if you add fitness on top of exhaustion and adrenal fatigue and cortisol and all this, it's actually going to be a deficit for a lot of people. So really stress is huge, and then sleep deprivation or sleep debt acts very similarly to stress in the body. So when you're tired, your body's like, well, she's not going to let me rest, so how am I going to keep my energy up? What happens when you're really tired? Anyone notice with food?
Digestion stops.
Yeah, that's one of the, it slows right down. But also, what do you feel like eating when you're really tired? Yeah, junk sugar. Yeah. So that's where the lifestyle, those are 2 big lifestyle factors. Stress reduction, relaxation practices, which I could have a whole talk on that, which I'm really passionate about. And then, but you've also, I'm sure some of you, did anyone go to Christina's talk this morning? Talking a lot about self-care, which is amazing. And there's one about exhaustion. So there's lots of talks today about that, getting more relaxation built into our lives. So the 4th step, would anyone like to read it?
Use the loving and peaceful eating guidelines. Slow down and savor your food.
Yes. Okay, so because it's before lunch and you said you were kind of hungry, I've got chocolate I'm going to pass around. And so when I talk about peaceful eating, these are I have 21 principles I've come up with. These are just principles of how to actually eat your food. So I believe it's less about what we eat for a lot of people, and it's more about how we eat. Like I talked about the stress reduction. And so I'll pass this around. There's 2 different kinds, but there's only enough for you to have one. So sorry if you're like, I don't want that one. But they're both vegan and gluten-free, so they should be safe. So just take a piece, and I have to say this because otherwise they're going to be gone. Don't eat it yet. So just grab a piece and pass it around. So what I want to talk about here with this piece of chocolate is actually having a bit more presence with our food, a little bit more mindfulness around our food, and really savoring it. And this is another interesting piece of scientific fact, is that when you are experiencing pleasure, your natural ability to burn fat increases. So if you're feeling happy and you're like loving what you're eating, your metabolism's working at a better rate than if you're like, ooh, I shouldn't be eating this, or you're just like stressed, or you're feeling bad about what you're doing. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So once you have your chocolate, just take it in your hand and just look at it. And I always like to talk about, like, where did this come from? My husband and I and our daughter, we do a lot of gratitudes around food. So we think about what we're grateful for at the meal, where it came from. That someone had to pick those cocoa beans off trees in Ecuador, and it is just such an amazing gift that we have, the abundance of food that we have, right? And actually, there's studies to show that when you're grateful, your stress reduces. So that's a great thing before you eat, because of what I shared about the crazy driving in traffic and stuff in your face versus taking a few moments to relax. And that one tip alone has helped my clients. Some of them, they're like, I just stopped eating in the car, and I just stopped eating on the run, and I've lost 10 pounds in 3 months, and I've changed nothing about what I'm eating. So I think that's pretty cool. So smell it, look at it, think about it. How does it smell?
Good.
It's different than maybe have you ever smelled chocolate before? And then just put it on your tongue and kind of roll it around in your mouth a little bit, maybe before you even chew into it, just like rolling it around, noticing how the texture feels, how it tastes before you even bite it. The saliva is starting to break it down. And the first step of digestion is actually in our mouths. So if we actually take a little longer to chew and savor, we have way better digestion. So people that I've trained that had indigestion issues, when they started to chew their food, their indigestion went away. So just chewing into it and just seeing how it tastes, savoring it if you like it. It's dark chocolate, so it's like 70-80% cocoa, so that might not be up your alley. But just noticing, and there's nothing wrong or right about it. I just like to kind of premise the idea. I've had a client, she's like, I used to eat entire chocolate bars and never even taste them and enjoy them. And then you just got me to eat this tiny little dinky piece of chocolate, and I've got way more joy and pleasure from that than I did from all these chocolate bars eaten mindlessly. So that's sort of where the peaceful eating, taking, when you go for lunch today, put your silverware down once in a while, chew, taste. If you don't like it, don't eat it. It's not serving your body. Your body's so wise. We're wise women, and if you're like, whoa, this tastes bad, probably it's not going to serve your body. So I always like to honor that intuition that we have in our body. All right, so the last step. Can anyone read the last step?
Optimize your mindset. Ditch the all or nothing way of thinking. More self-compassion.
Yeah. So mindset's huge. I could go on for days about mindset. These are two big game changers, though. All or nothing. Ramona kind of touched on it. The idea that, well, I ate one donut, so I might as well eat the whole plate. Or I had one glass of wine, so let's finish the bottle. Or what? Did anyone ever do anything like that? Got a few people nodding? So all or nothing is basically like black or white thinking. I have to be all on the wagon, all on the diet, all on the healthy eating, or off. And there's no middle ground. And it's actually the most destructive mindset when it comes to food. Actually, I believe in life, however, specifically with food, it's sort of that perfectionism. Anyone a little bit of a perfectionist? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah. So start to question it. It served you in some way in your life. For sure it did. And I'm not here to say perfectionism is a bad thing all around. I just think when it comes to food, it's impossible to be perfect. We are human beings. We're imperfect. And whoever told us that we had to be on or off was lying to us. And so just questioning those belief systems. And then the second way, which ties in, is the idea of when you eat something that doesn't serve your body, like, I don't know, you mindlessly eat like 4 pieces of pizza, and then afterwards you're like, oh my God, I feel so bloated, I feel disgusting. Having that awareness, like, oh yeah, that wasn't the best choice, that's one thing. That's actually healthy to be like, yeah, that didn't work for me. However, a lot of people go from that to, I'm disgusting, I failed, I'm lazy, I have no willpower, and they start to beat themselves up. Why can't I get this figured out? Why do I keep doing this? And they beat themselves up. And actually what beating yourself up does is it solidifies that habit. It actually gives all your energy to the thing you don't want. And so what's so much more powerful is to switch it and say, okay, that didn't work, that was not the best, and get curious. Compassionately curious. Why did I do that? Well, my husband is being a dick, my daughter is being super crazy, my day at work was awful, traffic was shit, and then it's like, okay, well, something's got to shift in my life if I want to not keep eating entire pizzas. And so it's using some compassionate curiosity, because if all you do is say, well, I'm just terrible, and you're just shaming yourself, then you're going to stay stuck, I guarantee it. Does that make sense? And that works in every area of life. One of my goals this year has been to slow down and to book less in my schedule. And a couple of months ago, it crosses over with every area of your life, I was like, my daughter had like all these birthday invites. She's like 3.5 years old, and there was like 3 birthdays in one day. I'm like, well, we can make this work. So I'm like driving around the city to all these freaking birthdays, and by the 3rd one, I was so mad at myself. I'm like, why didn't I just say no? And I was like getting into that beat up mode, and I was like, wait a minute, this is what I teach people not to do. And so I thought, what can I do different next time? Maybe say no. Sorry, we're full of it today, because I know I'm not enjoying the 3rd birthday party. Does anyone resonate with that? So it works all across your life. And there's actually been an interesting study. Dieters, people that are trying to follow a weight loss plan, that when they fall off the wagon, they're supposed to, half the group was said, you beat yourself up, you get mad at yourself. If you need some extra support on that, call us, we'll beat you up too. And then the other group was told, give yourself compassion, get curious, be kind to yourself, remind yourself you can do better at the next meal or snack. And guess which group was more successful in losing weight? The compassion group by 80%. And so many of us have been raised. Anybody been raised? Like, work harder, beat yourself up, do more. Yeah, some people are nodding their head. And so maybe that serves us in some regard to a point. And when it comes to food, it's really not that helpful. Does that make sense? Is this helpful so far?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. So the first step we talked about was the awareness around your hunger. Is it a physical hunger, or is it more of an emotional hunger? So we're just going to skip to practical tool number 2, deciphering between real and emotional hunger. So does anybody want to read the chart? Real versus emotional? Any readers?
I'll read it.
Okay.
I don't have my glasses.
Okay.
So real physical hunger. The body needs food for fuel to function. It builds slowly. You crave a variety of foods like a balanced meal or a snack.
Can you just go back and forth?
Oh, between the two.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So real physical hunger builds slowly. Emotional hunger comes on quickly. Real physical hunger craves a variety of foods like a balanced meal or snack, whereas an emotional or spiritual hunger craves a very specific type of food, almost always carbs. Real hunger can stop when the stomach is full. Emotional hunger is never satisfied by food alone. Real physical hunger can wait for a little bit before eating. Emotional hunger feels like it needs to be satisfied immediately. Real physical hunger brings on good feelings and an increased energy after eating. Emotional hunger brings on icky feelings like shame when you beat yourself up, and lethargy and heaviness after eating.
Cool, thanks. So I found that was a really powerful tool for myself, and also a lot of clients really resonate. Does anyone can you find yourself in that? Yeah, do you want to share any part of it? What really stuck out for you?
Well, I actually just got emotional looking at the difference, because I always thought when I'm really, really hungry, I'm so hungry, I need to eat. It's because I'm actually hungry. And then thinking about the choices I make in those times, it's just whoa, I wasn't actually hungry. It was all emotional. And that's huge, because I always think, I left too long, I should have had a snack. But it really, that type of hunger and the choices I'm making, I know exactly what type of day I had or whatever, it really is hunger.
That's great. That's great awareness. And I do want to say, sometimes when we let ourselves get way too hungry, physically hungry, we will just want carbs because we're in save me starvation mode. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's having that awareness ooh, I had a really crap day, and maybe you're also really way too hungry, and then it's a recipe for disaster, right? Because the stress and the exhaustion, on top of having some emotional stuff happen in your day, that's game over. There's no chance you're going to make a good decision, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to rest and have some relaxation practices. Does anyone else have any aha moments with that chart that you want to share? Yeah.
Well, I'm so far gone with comfort eating that nothing tastes good anymore. But I eat it anyway, and then I immediately go to the fifth thing where I feel shame and I beat myself up, because I think, well, I'm not even enjoying this anyway. Why am I still eating it?
Yeah, so, the first step, I think, is catching yourself in the shame and knowing it's not serving you, and it's just solidifying the habit you don't want. And then finding ways, which is my passion, helping people find ways to enjoy food again and get the zest for life back again. And maybe food's not your greatest source of joy. For me, actually, it is. I'm a total foodie. However, for some people, food's just and then it becomes something different. But yeah, just kind of questioning we're gonna talk about that too. What really is it that you need? Maybe it's a nap. Maybe it's a cry. Maybe it's a pedicure. Maybe it's a bath. Maybe it's something other than food, right? Thanks for sharing. Okay, so quickly skipping back to tool 1. So this is interactive. So just getting aware of your triggers for eating. And so I've run this talk quite a few times, and I always question people, what triggers you to eat? For me, for a long time, it was sadness was a big one. I didn't feel comfortable feeling sad, and so I would eat as soon as I felt that tightness in my chest or those tears welling. I would eat. So just there's a little you can circle any triggers that you have. So circle any that resonate. Dissatisfied, overwhelmed. When you eat, other than when you're hungry, what are the triggers? Maybe frustration, lonely, stressed, exhausted, anxious, sad, feeling unworthy, feeling unfulfilled, feeling bored, wanting to procrastinate. And then there's a couple spots here where you can write other triggers if those aren't true for you. So I just kind of compile. Yeah, I just like highlight the whole page. So that just, like I said, this is all about awareness. If we don't know what we're doing, how can we ever change it, right? And that's with any habit in life. You know, and I would say, because this is a bit of like a taboo subject, there are some women that would be like, that's not me. I just need a diet, and they don't even want to go there. So I just want to say this is very courageous of you for even coming to this talk, knowing what the topic was, right? So, but awareness is the key to change. Another quick tool I like to teach my clients is the broccoli test. So, you know, we went through what does real physical hunger feel like. Another quick test in the moment is just saying, you're at the pantry, or you're at the fridge, or you're wanting to go get takeout, and you just say to yourself, am I hungry enough to eat broccoli? And it's just like, broccoli's okay, but no, I just want the cheesecake. Like, I don't want broccoli, I want the chips, or I want the wine. And that's when you know it's probably not like a real physical need for food. It's more of that emotional hunger. Does that make sense? So that's just like a little tip, a little quick test. All right, so step 2 is in the moment practices, and I'll just breeze through these. So the first tool is to delay. So, you know, in the moment, you get home from work, whatever your scenario is, you go to the cupboard, and then you catch yourself. And then you go, okay, I'm just going to delay, whatever this looks like for you. A couple of strategies I like is I'll say to myself, if you still want this in 5 minutes, you can come back and have it. And often, just giving myself that much space, I forget about it, because it's just an old habit to go straight to the cupboard. So just delaying for 5 minutes, and not saying, you can't have it, because when you say that, like Ramona was saying, then you're like, fuck it, I want it more. But if you're like, okay, sweet Ramona, being kind to ourselves, right? If you still want this in 5 minutes, you can have it. And then it takes this like drama away from it. And it's like, you're in control. And if all you do for 5 minutes is think about it, then damn well just have it, you know? But sometimes the delay works. Another thing is just moving away from the temptation. Another thing is questioning yourself. One of the questions is like, is it worth it? And there's a quote that says, nothing tastes as good as thin feels, which I don't really like because thin is not my goal. Healthy and strong and comfortable in my skin is my goal. So nothing tastes as good as being healthy and fit feels, or filling your desire. And maybe that's true, maybe not at the end of a really long day, but that's been helpful for me. Just like, I want to look healthy and fit. I want to inspire people. I want to look like I own a fitness studio. I want to inspire my daughter. I want to fit into my clothes. And sometimes just thinking about what's important to me helps me go, I don't need the cheesecake tonight. Does that make sense? So just some little tools. The second tool is to give yourself what you actually need, which thank you for being so brave and courageous sharing, because there's a quote by Deepak Chopra that says, a spiritual hunger can never be satisfied on a physical level. And so that's kind of where it comes back to that chart. We could eat and eat and eat until we're so full that we probably can't fit any more food in, and it's never enough. Like, there's never enough food to fill a void that can't be filled with food. So just take a moment, looking at your trigger that you might have circled or written, and what would be some in-the-moment things that you could do for yourself that might be better than food. Maybe not easier than food, but maybe more useful than food. And so for me with my mom, the story I shared about my mom, I needed to talk to that chaplain and cry and express myself so that I didn't go stuff my face. My husband and I, when we fight or argue, we need to get to the end of the resolution, or I'm going to go eat. Or, you know, sometimes I just need to journal. Sometimes I just need to go for a walk. So those are kind of more emotional. Sometimes it's self-care. You know, if we don't give ourselves self-care and fill ourselves up in these spiritual ways, then food becomes something it should never be. We're almost done. So does anyone want to quickly share one or two that you came up with? What would be in the moment more useful than food? How about drinking water? Drinking water, great. Yeah, sometimes we're just thirsty. And thirst can often mask as hunger, yeah.
Gum.
Gum? Yeah.
What I've done is instead of saying, I can't have this, I'll actually hold it in my hand and say, body, do you want this? Does my body want this? And oftentimes that'll be like, I'll just get a physical feeling or something that's like my stomach is clenching, or I'm like, actually, I don't know. This isn't serving me, like you were saying.
Yeah, that's great. And Ramon is speaking after lunch about your intuition and your inner GPS. And intuitive eating is huge. It's like, is this going to serve me or is this going to hurt my body? And you can actually start to get better at feeling if it's actually going to nourish you. So those are the steps I wanted to share. And I would love if you, just before you head out for lunch, if you would just mind just giving me a little quick feedback on the talk. And of course, I'm here for questions. I'm going to be at lunch, so if you have questions at all, please come talk to me. This is the kind of work that going deeper really has significant impact, so that's what I do. I coach people, and I have programs that I do that. So if you want more information, come chat with me, and I hope that was helpful.